Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 6 Things That We Learned from Forest Green Rovers 0, Bradford City 3. If you do go on to enjoy today's episode, please make sure to drop a like on there for me. If you could try and hit 80 likes on today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are on the road to 8,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below on the things that we do go on to discuss in today's episode. I am once again joined by Frank. Obviously, I had to do the solo episode last time out against Accrington, but we're back for a positive episode again after what was a very comfortable win. I think Forest Green Rovers, while we put in a professional performance and we got the job done, they were poor. They were a very, very poor side. You could tell they had a number of injuries, but overall, didn't really threaten us all too much. They had a long-range shot which hit the bar in the second half. Harry Lewis made maybe 1 or 2 saves at the absolute maximum, but overall, it felt like a pretty comfortable win overall. I'm going to start out then with box number 1, and this might be a little bit controversial. I'm going with a green box for Ash Taylor. Now, I know he got sent off in the end, but I actually thought yesterday he played better in that game than what he did on Saturday against Accrington. And he got a lot of praise for his performance against Accrington. And I didn't really see why, because I thought in the air, in the first half, wasn't good enough in my opinion. Second half, he was a little bit better defensively and on the ball throughout the whole game. I thought he was quite poor. Against Forest Green Rovers, though, we seemed to play to Taylor's strengths. He didn't really have the ball all too much. Didn't make any mistakes from what I can remember. Obviously, he does get the red card and he kind of takes one for the team. I think if the game's at maybe 4-1 instead of 3-0, he probably doesn't try and take that red card, but to keep the clean sheet bonus, and all the players obviously are going to get, an extra bit of wage now because of the clean sheet bonus, is obviously very nice for the team. But I don't think that was the reason why he did it. I think it was a little bit clumsy and a little bit silly, but overall, for me, I thought he had a really, really solid game, and that's why I had to go with the green box, because I've been very critical of Ash Taylor so far this season, but I think he looks much better in the centre of the back three since Graham Alexander has come in. We're not trying to play out from the back, and it's certainly suiting our centre-halves a lot more, because we don't really have a ball-playing centre-half like what we had last season in Romney Critchlow, and that is why I have gone with the green box for Ash Taylor, because I thought he was really solid apart from the red card yesterday.
Yeah, that red card, sorry, was just moment of madness. I think it's got to do something with that clean sheet bonus. I mean, it is coming up to the Christmas period, and obviously with it being an instant red card, that does mean he gets a 3-match suspension. So there's multiple theories. I think it is a bit clumsy, especially when you look at how he's kind of done in his career. He's 33 years old now. He's an experienced pro. To be kind of doing that, it's a little bit unprofessional. There wasn't really much need, and Forest Green didn't really pose too much in the counter attack, at all. They were really poor the whole night. Gave the ball away. Just struggling with 5-yard passes, and it's not like with MK Dons where they're in a false position and they're a really good side. Forest Green are absolutely dreadful, and I think it's kind of down to teams like Tranmere, Sutton, Forest Green, no offence, that a lot of the teams who are going to be behind this season will survive because of how bad other teams are, and there's only 2 relegation spots. But yeah, I think everyone's been a big critic of Ash Taylor. When you've got lots of centre-backs at your disposal, you're looking at different players that can come in like your Sam Stubbs and, Jonathan Tompkinson, who definitely probably should have got a run out, needs to get a run out at some point as well. But yeah, I've been a huge critic of Ash Taylor, and I think someone with his height and his physicality, he just didn't utilise it. But, yesterday at Forest Green, he definitely showed it. He's 6'4" and he's absolutely massive, and that's exactly what we need to see. He got that assist for the Matty Platt goal, and it's exactly what he should be doing. It's a really, really deep cross to the far post, completely unmarked. He took his time. He headed it down gently for Matty Platt to head home, and it's exactly what we should be doing from the corners. We are a really, really big side. We've got tall players. We've got really, like Osadibe. You've got Matty Platt. You've got Ash Taylor, Sam Stubbs. There's lots of height in that squad, and even Andy Cook as well. He's been known to get goals from corners, whether that be from his head or his feet, and we've got to start utilising set pieces. There's a instance last season where we played it short, or Smallwood can beat the first man, and we've been particularly wasteful from set pieces, and I think that's a really big problem, because in this league you're going to have to rely on scrappy goals to get 3 points a lot of the time, and it will come from bobbles in the box and corners and scrambles on the goal mouth, and I think we need to utilise set pieces a lot more, and it's definitely been improvement, and Ash Taylor as well has been a big improvement, and it gives Graham Alexander something to think about. I think in terms of defenders, we've got a lot of defenders at the football club, and when everyone's playing well, you want to have that competition, and that that anyone can come into that squad and make a difference if someone's injured or suspended. So yeah, it's positive signs. Obviously we're going to miss him for the next 3 games, but I think there are players that can come in and take his space. It's a perfect opportunity now for Jonathan Tompkinson to try and cement a place and really give Graham Alexander something to think about. But I think if you look at the Crawley game as well, it's such a contrast to the Ash Taylor we first saw. It's glad that it seems to be settling a bit more now and using that physicality. But I wouldn't say a green box, I'd say a yellow box for the red card. But I think it was one of his best games in the Bradford City shirt. And long may it continue, because that Crawley one was enough, to make a grown man cry, that performance.
Yeah, obviously the game against Crawley, I don't think many players really did themselves much justice, but Taylor was awful on that day, and he seems to have slowly and gradually improved in it. Obviously, it won't actually be a 3-game ban, it'll be a 1-game ban because it wasn't violent conduct, but it unfortunately doesn't count towards the AFL trophy. But yeah, I think with the way Taylor's actually played over the last 2 games, I wouldn't say he's going to be a miss, because I think we've got 2 more than adequate replacements, but it will be interesting to see how we do line up with that, because obviously Stubbs is a little bit smaller than Ash Taylor, but he poses better ball distribution and all that sort of stuff. We'll move on then to box number 2, is another green box, this time for Jamie Walker. Now, maybe if he didn't get his goal right at the end, I would have gone with a yellow box, because I mentioned it in yesterday's match reaction. I thought his all-round play in the game was very, very good. He seems to be thriving in this new position alongside Gilead as more of a number 8 rather than the number 10. He seems to get on the ball a lot more. He seems to get involved with pressing and all that sort of stuff a lot more. And I think we're certainly seeing a much better performance recently from Jamie Walker than what we have done, where he's been very inconsistent and a little bit anonymous previously. But I thought his finishing in front of goal was poor. He was really wasteful. He had 2 or 3 opportunities outside of his goal, and he went for power, and they were always going high, wide, and definitely not handsome. And it was quite disappointing from that point of view. But again, he's in the right place at the right time to pick up a late scrappy goal. But the all count at the end of the day, I think he's up to 5 for the season so far, which is obviously massive forwards. He's certainly more of a number 10 or an attacking midfielder who scores more goals rather than creates chances. He's very different to, say, someone like a Callum Cook who always looked for the extra pass, whereas Jamie Walker looked to try and shoot. And obviously, sometimes it's better to shoot, sometimes it's better to pass, but obviously Walker gets another goal and it's great for him and his confidence and all that sort of stuff. He celebrates right in front of the Forest Green player. I'm sure something must have gone on there beforehand, because as soon as Walker scores, he's looking straight for him, goes right in his face, probably either laughs or says something, and their player's absolutely fuming about it, causes a little bit of handbags and all that sort of stuff. And Walker does pick up, I think he's 6th or his 7th yellow card so far this season. I don't know when the cut off is, but hopefully sometime soon so he doesn't end up picking up a 2-game ban, obviously, if he does get up to that 10 yellow card mark. But overall for me, I thought Walker's performance was very good. He just sometimes lacks a little bit of composure in front of goal, but obviously he played a big part in the first goal with him putting the corner into the box, and overall it was a very good performance from Walker. He just needs to be a little bit more clinical in that final third for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was a chance in the second half where he had some good passing football, received the ball in the 18-yard box and volleyed it on the half volley and just smashed over. He seemed to siphon it over, and in that instant, you've just got to place it into the bottom corner. And there's been a lot of chances, not just for Jamie Walker, but for other players across the pitch, where it's huge chances squandered, and it's a matter of 3 points, 1 point, and it can even contribute to goal difference at the end of the day. And we can really, really put teams beyond doubt. We've seen it before at Newport. We took a lot of our chances and we put teams to bed early, and that's exactly what we need to be doing. Notts County did it against us as well. They got chances, they took chances, they created chances, and they've punished us first half. And it gives teams a mountain to climb in second half, and that's when you can take your foot off the gas a little bit, and you can save players, and you won't look as shattered. And it's overall, it's more comfortable as a squad and as a fan base to watch when you know that you've kind of got the game in the bag from the first half, and you can experiment different things, and it's just a win-win. If you take your chances on early on, and I look at some of the stats he's done, about 85% pass accuracy, 6 out of 7 long balls successfully, created the most chances out of any player on the pitch yesterday, won 7 out of his 9 ground duels, and had 3 shots, and I think all 3 of them were huge chances as well. So yeah, I think we've talked about this before, about his output and his contribution. Whilst he has scored some really, really huge goals, I think Jamie Walker knows himself that he can contribute a lot more. It's his 5th goal this season, but I could argue he could have 7 or 8. And I think last season as well, he had a lot of big chances to score goals and he squandered them, or things just quite haven't gone right. And I think if Jamie Walker's a little bit more clinical, we're looking at a really, really good number 10 at this level. And that's what players need to do. You need to be clinical at this level. And I saw a few comments about the incident with the defender on the floor, and I think I'm all for it personally. I think I've commented a lot of the times that we are a bit of a soft touch, and we'll be helping players to their feet, and we'll be not doing professional fouls, or we'll be if there's an incident off the ball or something which the referee could miss, if a tackle comes in and it looks like a red card offence, we won't stay down. And we've got to be little bastards in this league at the end of the day. We've got to, be a bit professional about it and play the game in a sense. And that's exactly what I want to see from Jamie Walker, not just helping him up, but getting in his face. If you're giving him stick and we're winning the game, give him a bit back. And I think we need to stop being a soft touch, and not just away from home, but at Valley Parade as well, make it a toxic atmosphere for other players to come against, and make it a real fortress. And that's something I want to see more. And Jamie Walker, he's got that attitude about him. We saw it with Tomlin last year against Doncaster. He's that kind of player. He's got that personality about him, and it's exactly what you want to see in a player at Bradford City, someone who's got that attitude about him. But yeah, he's a brilliant player. We know what he's capable of, but I would like to see a little bit more clinicalness from Jamie Walker.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. We'll move on then to box number 3, the only non-green box in today's video. Cautious with his fouls, and he didn't really want to stick a foot in. And I think that's when you don't see the best of Smallwood. When he knows he can go in and try and commit fouls, that is obviously the best that we get to see from Richie Smallwood, when he's putting tackles in and he's leading like that. And I thought some of his passes were quite poor as well. He was trying on a number of occasions to get the ball in behind for Tyler Smith to run onto. And Forest Green were playing quite a high line, so I had absolutely no problems with that. But every single one, I don't think he got one pass right. There was an incident in the second half as well, near the end, where the ball was deep in our half and he tried to play a pass back to, I don't know, Lewis or one of our centre halves, and he passed it straight to the Forest Green player. He goes around Harry Lewis, and thankfully his shot, for our sake, goes just wide. Although Matty Platt was recovering, I don't think he would have actually got there. But Smallwood, for me, had a few shaky moments yesterday, and that's why it has to be yellow. We've been very appraisal of Smallwood so far over these last couple of matches. I think he's been a man reborn since Mike Hughes departed the football club, and I really think we are seeing the best from Richie Smallwood. Just yesterday, I was slightly disappointed with his performance, and his decision making to get that yellow card, because he definitely did not need to boot the ball away like that. Because firstly, if the referee wasn't going to give a free kick, that ball's going straight out of the stadium anyway, so what's the point? And he knew he was going to get booked for it. He just seemed a little bit daft to me, and that's why I've had to go with the yellow box for Richie Smallwood.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think I'm all right with like the cynical fouls and playing professional and stuff like that. But when it's just, exactly what you're doing with it and it's not helping the team, with the Ash Taylor one, I was really, kind of frustrated by the red card that he got, because there wasn't really much need for it. And it's the same with Richie Smallwood. Now at this level, you've been briefed by it, and it's been performed in games where if you kick the ball away for an opposition free kick, it's going to be a yellow card and referee's going to stamp on it. And that puts you on a tightrope for the rest of the game. You're not allowed to tackle as hard as you might want to, and you might not be able to take cynical fouls, and you might not even be able to do what you wanted to do in the first half by kicking the ball away. That might be useful to do in the second half. You might want to take a yellow there, but when it was so early in the game and there was literally no need to do it, it was in their own half. There wasn't any need to kick the ball away, because it wasn't like it was, across the 18-yard box in a dangerous area. It really wasn't in a dangerous area at all. And when someone's the captain and another experienced player like him, I just don't expect him to be doing that. And I think he's been a scapegoat last season. And, this season, I'm kind of got him on a clean slate. I think he's been a brilliant player this season. But, once again, it's going back to that adage of, what he's done in his career. And, he was a championship captain not long ago. And he's got such a good pedigree in the EFL, and you come to Bradford and you're expected to drop performances that are 7, 8, 9 out of 10 every week because of what you've done. You're dropping 2 levels below. We've seen it with Paul Mullen and players like that who drop leagues below and are expected, to deliver, and they do deliver. But I think Richie Smallwood's we're expected for him to be a championship player, and that's kind of why he's got a bit more pressure and expectation than everyone else. But he's the club captain, and I think there's a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. And end of the day, he's the brunt of criticism. We are not in a great position in the league at the moment, and he's going to be the man on the pitch, almost as if he's the manager. At the end of the day, he controls what goes on in the pitch, and he's the one that can get the messages through. And whilst I think he's been much better as a leader than he was last season, there are performances where I think what you're doing there, that Harry Lewis situation where he passed the ball back, I thought in the first half he looked to move the ball forward, but how successful he was in doing that, I'm not convinced at all. But I think it's just a fluke. Players will have bad games. Bobby Poynton's been a brilliant player this season, and he's had a few stinkers, and Andy Cook's had a few stinkers. He was our best player last year. Harry Lewis is certainly no strangers to a few stinkers this season. So I think we've got to give him a pass, especially when you're winning 3-0. It's not contributed to anything really, and it's not affected the result. So, I'll give him a pass for this week. But not what I'm going to see against a poor team like Forest Green playing so poorly. But I don't think he was the worst player. He certainly did his job. It's a 5 out of 10 for me. But once again, we saw a bit of a glimpse of what we saw last season with poor passes, poor decision making, and stuff like that. But like I said, he's a great player. I think he's done much better this season than he did last season already. And hopefully it's just a fluke.
Yeah, I certainly don't think it was an awful performance, and obviously his mistakes didn't lead to anything to get too worried about, to be honest with you. But I do think it was something we needed to pull up on, because there were a couple of mistakes that on another day we could have been punished for, that Richie Smallwood at Discord. We'll move on then to box number 4. We are back with the green boxes, this time for Matty Platt. I thought he was really, really solid defensively yesterday, and he got his first league goal for Bradford City. I think he mentioned it himself that he very rarely scores, but when he does, he gets 2 very close together. He scored his first goal for the football club last Tuesday in the AFL Trophy. Obviously didn't score at all last season. Scored his first league goal yesterday against Forest Green. It was a great goal, to be fair. I mean, he didn't really have much to do. He just had to head it into what was almost an empty net at that point. Great ball in from Jamie Walker. It's clearly a set piece routine that we've worked on the training ground. Ash Taylor heads it back across goal, and Matty Platt is there to head home. And it's just obviously great for the confidence of the rest of the team that more and more players seem to be chipping in with goals as of right now, other than Andy Cook, like what it was last season. If Andy Cook wasn't scoring, you might get the odd goal from a Scott Banks or a Jamie Walker, but nobody else really contributed with goals last year, and that just simply was not good enough. But now we've got defenders scoring goals, we've got defenders assisting goals as well, and that was why Ash Taylor was signed for the football club, to get goal contributions from set pieces. But Platt defensively I thought was really solid. I think now we're not playing out from the back, we're seeing a better version of Matty Platt, because ball playing, while he's not awful at it, he's going to drop 2 or 3 clangers a game if you're making him play out from the back. But if you go more direct, that certainly suits Matty Platt's game a lot more. And I think with us having 3 big physical centre halves, whoever that's Stubbs, Kelly, Taylor, Platt, whichever one of them 4 is going to play. I don't think Tompkinson's quite the same. I think he's slightly different, but we've not really seen too much from him. Whichever physical centre half plays, none of them really are natural ball playing defenders. Well, I don't think Stubbs is awful at it. I'd much rather not see him take them risks, to be honest with you. I had much more confidence in Critchlow, and even last season he was prone to the odd mistake or two. So I think at this level you need to be going more direct, and not even necessarily just direct football. You just don't really need to play out from the back if you've not got defenders who can play out from the back. And Mike Hughes, for some reason, was just adamant to play square pegs in round holes. Never really worked, and some of the decisions that he made, you look back at them now, and now that he has the part of the football club, and you think they were absolutely criminal. It wasn't just 1 or 2. There was a number of major errors he made so far this season. But defensively, we're looking solid. Back-to-back league clean sheets is obviously massive. Against a good Accrington side, we got the job done there. And against what is traditionally normally a game that Bradford City would struggle in against Forest Green Rovers, as they are bottom of the league, to keep 2 clean sheets in them 2 games is obviously positive signs. And I never really felt threatened by Accrington. They had 1 or 2 chances, but nothing really clear cut. Forest Green, again, 1 or 2 chances, nothing really clear cut where you think, oh my days, how have they missed that? So I think defensively we're looking very solid at the moment. Matty Platt had a great game yesterday. Great for him to get his first league goal for the football club, and that is why I've gone with the green box for our number 5.
I feel like every time we discuss Matty Platt, or he's mentioned in the video, we always say like the same thing, where you know exactly what you're going to get from Matty Platt. Is 6-7 out of 10 every week, and he was brilliant again today, and he won 100% of his tackles last night, and obviously got the goal as well. And it just goes to show that it's just kind of baffling as to how he wasn't getting back in the squad. I feel like after, you've got players like Ash Taylor coming in, and I think there's a lot of games where Matty Platt's best suited. I think when you know exactly what you're getting from Matty Platt, 6-7 out of 10, I don't think he's really had a bad game, apart from maybe when he got sent off at Mansfield. He's a really solid defender at this level, and he hasn't really put a foot wrong for us, and he's a ball playing centre half, and we saw that, and you can see it statistically as well. He only had 2 less touches than Jamie Walker the whole game. He wanted to get on the ball, and whilst he isn't the best ball playing defender, that's the kind of the role he was set out to do. He only achieved about 60% of his passes that he attempted yesterday, and whilst things didn't necessarily go wrong, I didn't really know a time where he gave the ball away and it contributed to some sort of error or a shot on goal. It is interesting to see. Obviously, he got his goal as well. That's 2 goals in about 3 games in all competitions as well. So, yeah, it's positive signs from Matty Platt. I hope he can work his way back into the squad. And it's like what I said earlier as well, where there's lots of competition at the back as well when you've got so many defenders coming in and they're having good performances. It gives Graham Alexander a lot to think about. Obviously, he's come into the squad with a completely, blank canvas. He doesn't really know who's playing well and, what he can add, because if you look at some of the stats, Osadibe scored about 2 goals in the space of 3 games, had some decent statistics, but if you're a Bradford City fan, you know that he's probably one of the worst players at the club as it stands. So, he came with a blank canvas, and there's a lot of players that still need to prove themselves in their own positions, and there's a lot of centre-backs that are, at the club at the moment, and there's a lot of, points to prove. So it's good to see more defenders, playing well. Obviously, Matty Platt's fully deserved his goal. I think, to say that's his first one in the league as well, it's quite surprising. He's been here a while now, and I think he's been a great servant. So yeah, he's a brilliant centre half, and hopefully he can get his way back into the team and prove it and give some more competition to the rest of the defenders.
I think last season he was very consistent in the appearances that he was making, because Critchlow was picking up a couple of injuries, and Platt, while he was in and out of the team a little bit, he was pretty consistently in the side. And this season he has been a little bit more inconsistent. Obviously didn't start on the opening day against Crawley, and then was in and out of the side since Alexander's come in, been chopping and changing as well. But I think when Platt plays, normally the absolute minimum you get from him is a 6 out of 10. And I thought yesterday he was certainly an 8 or a 9 for me. Really, really good defensively, and obviously great for him to get his first league goal. Let's move on then to our penultimate box of today's video. It's another green box, this time for Brad Halliday. And while I don't think he did a lot of things exceptionally, we have to talk about that tackle in the first half, and that deserves a green box alone. He absolutely busted a gut. He was sprinting back. The attacker for Forest Green had at least 5 yards on him. Halliday made that up and put in an absolutely outstanding tackle, where most people would have just taken a cynical yellow card and taken one for the team. Halliday he deserves a green box for that tackle alone. And you know what you're going to get with Brad Halliday. He's so consistent and he's so good. We need to tie him down to a new long-term contract, because there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that he could definitely play at a higher level. I'd hope we don't leave it to like what we have done over the last couple of seasons, to wait until the end of the season before we start giving out new contracts, because players like Halliday, players like Bobby Poynton, they deserve new long-term contracts, especially when they're out of contract in the summer. Brad Halliday has to be one of our biggest priorities at this moment in time, because he's been so consistent so far this season. He was very good last year, but he's gone to a different level this year. And that tackle just epitomises everything you get with Brad Halliday. Hard work, quality on the ball, and just think back to the start of the season. He was on the bench for Daniel Oyegoke. Absolutely criminal from Mark Hughes. And since Alexander and McDonald and all the other managers that have come in since Mike Hughes left the football club, Halliday has gone to a completely new level, and he's been absolutely outstanding. Alex Gilead is another one who's been very good recently as well, but Halliday, just for that tackle alone, has to get a green box, because he's so consistent. He's loved by the fan base as well now. He's definitely been our player of the season so far. I think he's been absolutely brilliant and definitely deserves a green box, because that tackle alone was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, argue with the wall. Brad Halliday has simply been the best player at the club this season. And I think, obviously, I know he's not the oldest player, but if he was 3-4 years younger, wow, we'd have an absolute, really exciting player on our hands. And I think we'd have to tie him down to a new deal. And there's probably a big price tag on him if he is about 3-4 years younger. And if there isn't now as well, I think he's a number of players that are out of contracts in the summer. And I think we saw it as well with so many players like Powdy O'Connor and Elliot Watt, who we just didn't, we didn't offer them contracts in time, and their heads get turned in the summer, obviously with lots of promotions going on and stuff like that, and new owners and budgets coming in, and your head's going to get turned easily. But if things are going right in January and things are looking good, and you're a priority at the club and you're getting a contract, then heads aren't really going to turn. There's not often you see big moves in January in the EFL. It's usually like loan deals or little tweaks. You don't really see a marquee player come through the building. And I think it's been a massive problem where we leave contracts too late and players are getting released that don't need to be released. And I think it could be altered if we give players contracts. And you look at Andy Cook being given a 3-year deal. Would it hurt to give Brad Halliday a 2-year extension? Would it hurt for us to give Bobby Poynton a 2-year deal with option of a further? I think we've got to be wise with the money, yeah. But, I think Brad Halliday deserves a blank bank contract, to be fair, because he's been absolutely outstanding. And you don't actually realise until, you're watching the games how fast he actually is. He looks to get forward on the ball, and that tackle, like you said, was brilliant. And I think, honestly, he's been a contender for man of the match in every single game he's played. He is an absolutely brilliant fullback, and it begs the question as to why he only got a handful amount of games for Fleetwood, because he could have easily done it at that level if he's playing the way he is at the moment. And at Notts County, he was a bright spark, and we got battered 4-2. He was brilliant in that second half. And, I could talk about Brad Halliday for days. He's a brilliant, brilliant footballer. He's an exciting fullback. He's a tough tackler, and he looks to get the ball forward. It's exactly what you want. He ticks all the boxes as a fullback. I could easily say he's been the best right back since Derby, one of the best fullbacks we've had in the modern era. He's been an absolutely brilliant, brilliant servant. And like you said, obviously with his contract expiring in the summer, it is criminal, and we've got to tie him down to a new deal because clubs will be sniffing around, and we need to get it sorted fast. But brilliant player, and I completely agree with the Green Box.
I think the reason why Brad Halliday only played a few games for Fleetwood, I think, did he break his leg or do his ACL? I think he picked up some sort of long-term injury at Fleetwood. But yeah, he's proven enough now at Bradford City that he probably deserves the opportunity to play at the level above. So we need to tie him down, because I wouldn't say there's many people thinking about Bradford City being a League One football club at this time next season. Who knows what could happen? There's still over half the season to play, but I think we've got a big month coming up now in December, lots of tough games, so I'll be interested to see how we do get on with them. We'll move on then to our final box. It is another green box, this time for the gaffer once more. Graham Alexander picks up back-to-back green boxes, and it's more than deserved to go to a team like Forest Green, who are in the relegation zone, normally a banana skin for Bradford City, and put on a professional performance and get the job done. The manager has to get credit for that. I think the formation, he got spot on. I think the tactics, he got absolutely spot on. In the second half, when I think Forest Green changed, we struggled to adapt to it a little bit, and I think maybe a little bit of complacency sunk in. Some people will probably argue about the substitutes as well. They did seem really bizarre. Osadibe and Clark Ador coming on. You've got a central midfielder, and then the 9 million positions that Clark Ador can play, both playing up front. I thought it was bold from Graham Alexander, but it clearly worked. Both of them two linked up very well to contribute towards our third goal. And while you've got a striker in Vidane Oliver sat on the bench, you've got Matt Derbyshire, Chisholm Afoka sat at home. I was certainly someone going, why on earth is Osadibe coming up front? And then why on earth is Andy Cook coming off for Clark Ador? I think obviously the sub where Sam Stubbs came on for Jamie Walker made sense once Ash Taylor had got the red card. But Alexander deserves a lot of credit for making his team put on such a professional performance. I think there was probably at halftime and even maybe full time against Notts County, but especially at halftime after his 1.5 games in charge, a few people already maybe questioning, is he the right man for the job? The 4-4-2 was never really going to work with this team, in my opinion. Since he changed the formation, though, we look much better. We're scoring goals. Again, we're not really conceding much at the moment. And I think the team deserves a lot of credit. And Graham Alexander, his introduction into this side, I said in the video when Alexander joined the football club, I think it is a decent appointment. Out of all the managers who were currently unemployed, I certainly think he was one of the better ones. I am still slightly concerned by the contract length, because Bradford City have a big tendency to not give managers the time, or the fans put the pressure on to change the manager. And I do think the length of contract is still a little bit of a concern for me, but the early signs are clearly there that Alexander is a decent manager. He's always active on the touchline as well, which is something we never really saw under Mike Hughes, and he absolutely deserves the credit for that. And Graham Alexander, for me, absolutely deserves a green box.
Yeah, I think he got the tactics spot on again. I think the only negative I've really got with him is the substitutions that he made. I think I would have liked to see Vidane Oliver and Harry Chapman come in. I think that was a perfect opportunity for them to come in, and I think some of them didn't really make sense, like Walker for Ador when you got Chapman on the bench, and then Andy Cook got brought off for Osadibe. Why on earth is Osadibe playing up front when you've got Vidane Oliver, who needs fitness and he needs game time? It didn't really make sense to me at all. And I put a tweet out yesterday. He's got players playing well again. Obviously, Andy Cook's back on the score sheet, and you've got players like Jake Young coming back, and under a good manager, that he's going to thrive as well. And I really hope that he chooses to stay with the club. He doesn't get his head turned. There's been rumours about him going to a different team in League One. I heard Bolton going around, but obviously that's just Twitter. It's all noise for me. I don't really pay much attention to it unless it's from a credible source. So I really hope Jake Young stays. I think what I would like Jake Young to understand is that it was never us, the fans, that wanted him to leave. It was Mark Hughes that instilled that thing. And whatever happened with Mark Hughes, it is gone now. It's in the past, and we want him to be here. And I think, he's even when last season, when he started playing in the early parts of the season, he didn't contribute much in terms of goals, but he was a brilliant player. Obviously, scored some fantastic goals. The goal against Walsall is quite notable as well. And I think what you're getting from Jake Young is an exciting young striker. And I'm not really sure what the difference was. He went out on loan to Barrow, couldn't hit a barn door in 17 games, and then has gone to Swindon, has got 20 goal contributions in 19 games. So I really hope you're kind of trying to adapt to the system that Jake Young's doing when you've got one of the most prolific strikers in the English Football League at the moment. I think you've got to kind of adapt to how he's playing and trying to play it with strengths. And Graham Alexander's definitely someone who can do that. I think the three at the back formation, it's not broke, don't fix it. I think he's doing really well with it at the moment. Brad Halliday's playing out of his skin. So there's lots of things to be positive about. I think when you look at it now on the league table, about 4 or 5 points off the playoffs, and what a difference a few games make. There's lots of things to be positive about, but it's such a tight league at the moment. There's not many points in it from the bottom to the top, and we could quite easily slip back into a relegation battle, or we could go ahead and start winning the next few games. We could really be in the promotion push again. This winter period, when there's a lot of congestion of games and there's lots of big games coming up, I think it's important to pick up points, and you never know where you'll be at the winter period, and it can also contribute to players as well. There might be a few goals points in it, but if you see that Bradford are currently 5th in League Two, they've got such a big stadium, like what all the other players can kind of see. You see it in the statements when players sign, oh, it's such a big club and stuff like that, and the aim's promotion. We still might be 3 points off 15th. So it's such a tight league. It's important that we do well in this winter period. And like I said, regardless of kind of how it goes off the pitch, I'm always going to be backing Graham Alexander. I think that's the thing that we have to do as fans now. Whatever's going on off the pitch, you can have your disagreements with it, but I think we've got to get behind Graham Alexander, and he's given us no real reason to not do so. I think he's been spot on, and the last 3 games, I think something like 11 goals scored, 1 conceded. He's done really, really well as Graham Alexander, and long may it continue, because we need a manager to steer this ship in the right direction. I think he's the perfect man for the job as it stands.
Yeah, I think the Jake Young situation, it is kind of interesting, because he will be, when he does return in January, and I do think he will return in January, he will be like a brand new signing, because he's not featured for us since last September or October. So to see him come back in after the start of the season that he's had at Swindon, I mean, a big club wouldn't just bring Jake Young to Bradford City, they'd bring his mate Dan Kempen as well, because I think he's an absolutely outstanding player. I was really surprised to see MK Dons let him go on loan after having a successful spell in the second half of last season with Hartlepool. I think he's outstanding, and if he's available for the right price, why not see if you can get Dan Kemp as well? Because I think if you can get them two linking up as well with an Oliver, a Cook, whoever the partner may be, I don't think Young and Smith would really work. But I think if you have the big physical striker in Andy Cook over then Oliver, then you've got the finisher in a Smith or a Jake Young. It could certainly work really well. And Jake Young kind of knew that this was his probably not his last chance, but he needed to perform in this one because of the way it ended at Bradford City last season. His loan spell at Barrow didn't really work out. He then turned down moves in the National League in pre-season. He was having to play games with our under-18s, which I thought was really, really disrespectful from Mike Hughes. Just the 45 minutes against Park Avenue when everyone else on his team was like 17, 18, 19. I thought it was really, really disrespectful, but he's taken that. He's used it as motivation. 20 goal contributions in 19 games, having an outstanding season with Swindon Town. I hope Alexander does recall him. Brian Sparks kind of hinted towards that a couple of weeks ago that Jake Young will be returning to the football club. I think when that happens, you can maybe then move Matt Derbyshire on, and it frees up some wages to get in some other players as well. But we'll leave it there then for today's episode. A brilliant win, granted against a pretty poor side, but it's a professional performance and one where we got the job done. If you have enjoyed watching, please make sure to drop a like on there for us. If you could share 80 likes, as we said at the start of today's video, that'd be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new as well. We are on the road to 8,000 subscribers, so please make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already with that post notification bell on. It's free to do so, and it does massively help out. Get your thoughts in as well down in the comment section down below. Let me know down below your thoughts on Ash Taylor, Jamie Walker, Richie Smallwood, Matty Platt, Brad Halliday, and Graham Alexander. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you very soon for another one. Peace.